It's funny you say that Democrats hate America. I actually responded to somebody on Facebook, and the guy says back to me, "Well, what do you mean Democrats hate America?" And I didn't want this to be incendiary. I just said, "Look, human nature is such that when you don't like something, you attempt to change that which you don't like. When it reaches a certain zenith or zeal, that the dislike becomes hate, and then you try to, rather than change something, you try to transform something, which is really what we're seeing here." So,
and it's not just transform. I mean, they are degrading. Demonize.
Demagogue, demonize, and divide.
I mean, that is, if you don't hate something, why else would you behave that way?
Unfortunately, people buy on emotion and they justify on logic what they've already bought, right? So this is an emotional thing. And what people don't understand on sort of our side of the aisle is we're fact-based. Trying to talk to, let's call them the AOCs of the world, or the squad, or even, Biden at this point, who is, drank the Kool-Aid, is like talking to the mullahs in Iran. They do not have the same worldview. It is impossible to reason with them. And because we have eliminated public discourse and debates and debates in the public square where we can have civil disagreements, and it's okay to disagree, that's not allowed anymore. So therefore you have this silo with a cacophony of noise in here. You cannot rationalize or reason with them. I want to go back though to this.
Okay.
Freedom really is under assault. Number one, our border is being assaulted, right? The terrorist or the Hezbollah member, right? And by the way, folks, Hezbollah, Hamas is the ones in Israel, right? In Gaza, that's the war they launched against Israel. Hezbollah is in Lebanon, right? And they are both satellites of Iran. But they're both satellites of Iran. I mean, at the end of the day, the point is that you have this guy come over the border. Couldn't be that bright if he admits that he's with Hezbollah and he wants to, bomb New York City. But, no accounting for intelligence. But then you look at other internal dynamics. There's a new report, thank the Judicial Watch, under the Freedom of Information Act. They determined that on January 6th, the CIA had operatives in and around January 6th. And it wasn't just the bomb squad for the dog sniffing bombs, right? And the question is, if they were there, and by the way, we would not have known this without a FOIA request. And by the way, Ashley Babbitt apparently was not shot in the chest. She was shot in the shoulder, which raises a whole bunch of other questions. That's a different issue. But what were they doing there? Why wasn't the National Guard there when Trump clearly requested it?
Yep.
And why did it take a FOIA request to get this information out? That's the stuff where you think, when you say freedom's under assault, it's Ronald Reagan who's, the larger the federal government, the less freedom you have. It's not really rocket science, Ericka.
Yeah. Well, and I just can't help but feel like all of this is on purpose, right? Because the more unrest there is, the more chaos there is, the more control the government can take, the more of your rights they will, let me not say can, the more rights they will suppress. And we know this from history, okay? It's obvious. Whenever there's chaos going on, the government takes your rights and it takes more power for itself, and it never gives it back, ever. You don't get it back after the chaos is over. And so to me, again, tinfoil hat girl over here, I'm just going to get a tinfoil hat and start wearing it every show, because
we should get you a hat. You look good in hats.
I do. I'm a great hat wearer. Okay. And I'm telling you, this tinfoil hat is telling me that I am not crazy. If I see the government behaving in a way that will ensure chaos, and then they come in and act like they're our savior and take our rights away, I've had enough. And I think that's why so many other Americans are waking up too, and why they're supporting Trump. People who would not ever normally vote for a Republican or a guy like Trump are like, you guys are doing nonsense and we can see it now. And so I'm going to vote for the guy that's a giant middle finger to the establishment.
Burn it down? Is that what you want? You want to burn it down?
You know, there's an anarchist streak in me. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
But I think if we could just restore what was meant to be by the founding fathers, we would be so much better off.
Wait, but the Constitution is a living document that should change with the time, and it's old and antiquated. Oh, and while we're at it, let's get rid of the Electoral College because it's so undemocratic, even though it is the glue that holds the republic together. And look, for me, it's a double standard. So not that I generally quote this guy or even like this guy, but you also have, right, you have Trump who makes this hyperbole using the term bloodbath. And by the way, you can use the term bloodbath, an economic bloodbath. So, I mean, go look it up, folks. Don't take my word for it. Go to your Funkin' Wagnall or just anything but Wikipedia, please. And he is called onto the carpet that, oh, here's why you have to vote. And here, because he's going to bring a bloodbath and he's going to be a tyrant and freedom is under threat and democracy is under siege. Folks, you getting the idea?
Yeah.
And let's be clear, Ericka, what did we learn in school? One of the first things you learn in school is that repetition is the mother of learning. Right. So that if you keep saying the same thing over and over again in different ways, like the Democrats are doing, you're going to hopefully scare enough people. But where it gets me crazy is you have public figure. Well, he's not a public figure, but he's a media personality. Keith Olbermann. Basically, there was some reference on social media about that Trump was Hitler and and then Hitler was assassinated. And then Olbermann's response was, we can only hope. Right. Basically, we can only hope for Donald Trump's assassination. Right.
How is that not calling for violence?
But that's my point. Right, that's my point. But of course, it's only the Republicans that are calling for violence. It's only the Republicans that are a threat to democracy. And really the Republicans or those people who aren't sort of woke are a threat to their control and their money.
Yes.
I remember there's a reason the IRS, right, has 87,000 more agents, right? Because they want to make sure to feed the beast.
Yeah. And that's and Robert, a lot of people don't understand what all is going on around that. And I think you said it. What is it? There's like 1,000 billionaires in the United States. Okay. They don't need 90,000 or 87,000 armed IRS agents to go after 1,000 people. They're coming after you. They now are able to spy on your bank account. They're spying on Venmo and PayPal. Those companies are willingly giving your data to the federal government, and they're going to come after you to get more tax money out of you, penalties and interest out of you, because they know you can't afford the $400 an hour lawyers and CPAs to do your taxes so that you don't get screwed. Okay? They're coming for you. And it's obvious. They're not even being secret about it anymore.
Well, look, it's not even the federal government, which I agree with. It's really, then you look at things like tutor.com. We did a show early on. This has got to be almost a year ago on tutor.com, which is owned by a group out of Hong Kong called the Primavera Group, right? That there are 25 states that use them, and they are also the DOD has them approved for the military and their families for tutoring and for education K-12 for their families, right? So it's not just that you're under assault from the federal government, is that we're inviting into the country companies, whether it's TikTok, right? What is it, ByteDance that owns TikTok? And I think there's some relation between Primavera and ByteDance. And again, we're owned, and it says on the website of tutor.com that they're owned by Primavera, which is a Hong Kong-based company. Right. And then when you dig deeper, you understand that in China, there are certain financial disclosures and there's restrictions that these companies have to abide by in terms of giving data to the Chinese government. Right. And that there's really no distinction between Chinese business. Well, there is some distinction, but it's an overlap between China, draw 3 circles and make a Venn diagram with an overlap.
Right.
And there is an overlap between Chinese Communist Party, the business community in China, and organized crime. So
that's what people like. Everybody listening, remember, you can't do business in China without the permission of the CCP. You can start a business in the United States with very little money and with no permission from anybody. but you cannot exist as a business in China or outside of China without the CCP's permission. And to get that permission, you have to provide the data to them.
Right. So let me jump in. Here's what it says on their website. At the bottom of the Tudor.com, it says Tudor.com is controlled by Primavera Holdings Limited, a firm owned by Chinese nationals with a principal place of business in Hong Kong, China. Right? Here's my question. Why do you really think, Ericka, that American families, if they knew this, would be comfortable with their data being harvested? Because information is power. How you use information, it depends on when a conflict develops. But when you harvest all this information and your enemy, and let's call China what they are, not the Chinese people, because I know we're going to have people calling me xenophobic again.
Yep.
But the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party is harvesting all this information to use whenever. I don't know, maybe they harvest all this information and that tells them where to send their spy balloons over the country. I don't know, but it's I don't know about you. I'm just not comfortable. Like, first, look, I'm not on TikTok. I certainly don't use Tutor.com. But when you combine all of this.
No, I think Americans don't care. And here's the evidence for it. I'm going to
is it that they don't care or that they don't have time to care because the government has made sure that they're so busy working and paying their bills and paying their taxes, right? That they don't have time to care. Because if there's anything that I think is intentional, that's what I think is intentional.
Well, it's also convenience. I mean,
what do you mean?
So we're talking about Google, right? They run the world, right? And how creepy they are. Okay. I still use Gmail. I still use my calendar. I still use Google Maps. I mean, the first time I got a notification from Google with like, oh, look at all the places you visited last year. I was like, bro, why in the are you guys watching where I go and keeping track of that? Not cool. Not cool. I'm not cool with that. But you know what I didn't stop using?
Alexa?
Google Maps. Like, I'm still using it. I'm a tinfoil hat person. And because of convenience and comfort, I still use their products. Because what else are you going to use? They're all doing the same thing.
Until there's a parallel economy, full blown, I don't know really what you do. But I want to come back to other aspects of freedom really is under assault, right? And let's start. And it's not just freedom here; it's freedom overseas. But the other thing is, do you know that the federal government just released another $10 billion that was of assets frozen to Iran? Now, that's not the $6 billion they already got. It's another $10 billion so they could buy oil from Iraq. But again, here's our government. Wait, this is my favorite. So the government comes out and says, none of the money goes into the mullahs. None of this money goes into Tehran. The sanctions relief that is provided goes to the vendors that provide humanitarian assistance to the Iranian people.
And you know
not
what
only
happens
do the Iranian people not suffer because of this, the Iranian people aren't going to suffer because of this. Does anybody believe that crap?
Again, these people are stupid. Okay, if you send them money that gets used on humanitarian aid, then they're just going to use other money to do the terrorism.
Or maybe they're going to tithe and give 10% to the Iranian government. I don't know. Sorry.
That's not what it is. Like, they think you're stupid, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden and his cohorts think you're stupid.
Yeah, well, look, the thing that all frosts me, don't forget, I mean, what was it? 6 weeks ago? 8 weeks ago? 12 weeks ago? 3 U.S. servicemen died in Iraq in a drone attack, by Iran, essentially. And we're unfreezing $10 billion in assets so they can buy oil from Iraq.
That's outrageous.
I mean, where's the outrage? So when people, and again, the theme here is freedom under assault or democracy under siege, right? And freedom is under assault, but it's not in the places they're having you look. It's not Donald Trump who is assaulting your freedoms, folks. And again, let's be clear. I am ABB. I am anybody but Biden, right? If Nikki Haley, let's be clear. If Nikki Haley was the nominee, I'd vote for her. If Chris Christie was the nominee, I'd vote for him. Any of them are better than who's there now. Donald Trump is the nominee. I'm going to vote for Trump. I like his policies. I have no issues. I understand some of the controversy. We tried to get into the whole hyperbole thing, especially, you know, it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, first of all, taken out of context, as opposed to those guys that are lying to us, you know, that Biden clip, you know, you should play that Biden clip over and over. I bet you my IQ is bigger than yours. You know, my private parts are smaller, but my IQ's bigger. It's like, come on, really? And I can do a reverse flip without standing still with my feet on the ground. I mean, you know, there's a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you. It's old, made of wood, but in really good condition. Come on, folks.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, we need more defenders of American freedom like Donald Trump. And we get that when you support organizations like the American Center for Education and Knowledge.